I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
Okay. We're going to, all right. We just mentioned one of the weaknesses is that the Congress had no power to raise taxes, regulate trade. Also, they were not able to enforce the laws. And laws could only pass if there were 9 out of 13 states. Generally, you would do a majority, which would be 7 out of 13 states, but to get 9 really made it hard to get anything done. Okay. They couldn't enforce their laws. Strengths, they did have the power, as we said, to declare war and peace, to make their own money, to make treaties, and to settle disputes within the states. They also settled the western lands. Okay. This is that manifest destiny where the colonies began moving west and colonizing throughout the west and taking over that land. So there were some economic problems. I guess so, if you can't tax, right? So we'll just go through this and we'll go back and take some notes. Economic problems. Each state had its own currency. Now, think, why would that be a problem? But what if I'm traveling to Florida to go to Disney World? Okay, I'm driving. I'm in North Carolina. I take my money with me. I go to South Carolina. I got to stop at the gas station. They won't accept my money because it's not the same kind of money. Okay, well, I exchange it into South Carolina currency. Then I drive further south into Georgia. Same problem. I have to get gas, and they won't take my money. So you can see how this would be a problem over time. Okay, and each state had its own trade policy. Okay, when there's no continuity or there's no consistency between states, you have a problem. And central government, as we said, did not have the power to tax. So there was no money flowing in and out of the government to help pay for things and to run things. Which you think, who cares? But what happens if you need a military? Who pays the military? Well, the federal government would pay the military with the tax money. If there's no tax money, military don't get paid. You probably don't stay motivated, but so long to defend your country if you can't afford to even put bread on your own table. Okay, so let's go back and let's talk about the economic problems. Sorry about that. Oops. Ignore that. Economic problems. Okay. 1. Each state had own currency. Remember we talked about our trip to Disney World, how difficult that would be. Okay. 2. Each state had their own trade regulations. Okay, and central government couldn't tax. Okay, all these led to major economic problems. Foreign problems. The U.S. seemed to be weak because they couldn't even pay their own troops. Okay, it's going to make you seem weak. And if people are protesting, like we had with Shays' Rebellion, there was a guy last name Shay, of course, who was a farmer. He fought in the Revolutionary War as a police captain. But he fought, and the banks were starting to raise the taxes, or the states raised taxes on land so much so that farmers couldn't afford to pay their mortgages, and they couldn't afford to pay the tax. So the farmers were either thrown into jail or their land was taken. Obviously, they weren't happy about this. So Shay, he led a rebellion. successful at first. He had several followers because he was a good leader, and his experience in the Revolutionary War made him so. So he did have people follow them, and they kind of attacked the courthouse where they were putting people in jail for not paying their bills. And then they continued on to an armory where eventually they were defeated by the local militia there. So this kind of helped wake the founding fathers, at least, up to the fact that the Articles of Confederation were just not going to cut it. Okay, so British troops even continued to occupy our forts. We mentioned that in the Treaty of Paris that British troops would have to leave. Well, they are still in our forts, which again makes us seem weak. We couldn't even get the British out of our own forts after we defeated them in the war. So again, we seem weak. Okay, the Spanish refused to let Americans ship products down the Mississippi. So one of the biggest means of travel, transportation, biggest ports, which means big money, we couldn't even use because the Spanish wouldn't let us use it. Okay. So then we have the Proclamation of 1763, which we will talk about in just a minute. Let's talk about the foreign problems first. Okay, so one seemed weak. Okay, because of what we mentioned with the taxes. And I'm going to put in parentheses here, Shay's rebellion, because I mentioned that. Daniel Shay. Okay. Also, let's go up some. The British continued to occupy forts. Okay, number 3, Spanish wouldn't let us use Mississippi River. All right, okay, take a minute to copy that down. Proclamation 1763, sorry about that. You can see the boundaries there, and how it ends at this would be the Mississippi River right here. Okay. Okay, settling the western lands. There was a land ordinance of 1785 that stated that land in the west was to be surveyed using a grid system to establish 6-mile blocks. So they were basically going to break down the land into 6-mile square blocks. Okay, and that would be how they would divvy out the land. So they divided the land into townships. And again, I'm not going to take notes on this part because we're just not going to focus on it that much. But 6 miles on each side, 36 sections, 1 mile each, and 1 section set aside for school. So it would look, they basically divided it up like this, this grid over here. That would be how they set the land up. The school would have its own section there. Okay. Northwest Ordinance. This was an expansion, so we're increasing our territory of the United States. It made a plan for applying for statehood, so areas that were just, like Northwest area didn't have an official name or wasn't an official part of the United States. They would have a way of applying for that statehood, just similar now to how we have a way to, if you come from another country, to apply for citizenship. Okay, it promised no slavery, free education, freedom of religion, and trial by jury. These are things that we also covered in the Constitution too. So if you become a state, you would have those rights. The Northwest Territory, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin, they all went through these processes to become states. Okay, process for amending a new state. You would have to have all this in place, okay? 5,000, if it was less than 5,000 free adult males, okay, you'd have to have a governor, secretary, 3 judges. If it was greater than 5,000 free adult males, you had to elect a legislature to make laws. If it was greater than 60,000 free, you'd have to, then you could ask to become a state. So this is the process you have to go through. Again, we're not really focusing that much on this, but I did want you to know it. And actually, I noticed this flying over the United States when we went to Hawaii. Many of the areas in the Midwest they're still set up like this, so you can actually see that it's in squares like this. It's kind of neat to see, kind of weird at the same time. It's 200 years later. Okay, founding fathers: Washington, Jefferson, Adams, Madison, Monroe. Okay, these are the guys that were intricate in the Constitution that we're going to talk about next. So that pretty much ends our discussion on the Articles of Confederation. So let's just take a minute to look at our notes here. Okay, so should have where we talked about the central government, the difference between that and the state government. It was written in 1777 by John Dickinson. First National Constitution, Articles of Confederation, you have the breakdown there of all the different parts. Okay, and then you had the problems. We had both economic and foreign problems. So make sure you have these notes. There'll be a question that follows, and the next lesson we talk about will be the answer to the problems with this document, and that will be the Constitution. And we'll talk a little bit about how it came to be and the troubles they had getting that passed. So, hope you guys enjoy yourselves. Oh yeah, I was going to finish our song. Let me see if I can get that going for you. Oh yeah.
On the race to South Detroit, we took the midnight street going anywhere.